Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tosa Talks. We'll give people a few seconds to get in here and visit us tonight. My name is Robin Luther. I'm with the group Tosa Together. Happy New Year to everybody and welcome back to Tosa Talks, Building a Diverse, Thriving Community, an ongoing Facebook Live series proudly sponsored by our generous friends at Bostik. Tosa Talks features 3 monthly presentations designed to provide meaningful discussions around racial and social justice issues to support the work of building an inclusive, anti-racist community. We're really excited for tonight's panel discussion with members of the local group Tosa Moms Tackling Racism. The discussion is part of the personal story track that streams live at 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday of every month. And you can also join us for the Equity and Inclusion track on the third Wednesdays and the Government Department and Organization track on the last Thursday of each month. Every presentation is recorded and available for viewing and sharing on our Facebook page, this Facebook page, or on the Tosa Together YouTube channel. We welcome and encourage you to take part in tonight's live question and answer session. Please add your questions for our speakers or comments into the Facebook comments section during the presentation, and we will be passing them on to them as the presentation goes on. So it is now my pleasure to introduce tonight's host, Sienna Lytle.
Hi, I'm Sienna Lytle. I'm from Tosa Together, and I am delighted to welcome tonight's guest to Tosa Talks. Please say hello to Monica Delury and Bridget Brown from Tosa Moms Tackling Racism. Bridget is a Wisconsin native and has lived in East Tosa for 8 years. She's a middle school teacher and a mom to 2 girls, ages 4 and 8. Bridget has been a moderator for Tosa Moms Tackling Racism since it started and also worked with Indivisible Tosa and the League of Women Voters for various projects in the past. Monica is a proud Filipinx American, former military brat, child psychologist, and currently stays at home with her 2 elementary age kiddos and husband. We're so glad you can join us tonight for our Facebook audience about how Tosa Moms Tackling Racism is approaching the new year to really make it count. 2020 was such a tumultuous year in so many ways, and there were so many events that took place, from George Floyd to Breonna Taylor to the killing of Alvin Cole right here in Wauwatosa, all while dealing with a global pandemic. The year was a real catalyst for many of us to engage and get involved, and today we're going to talk about how to maintain that momentum to make 2021 really, really count. So thank you so much, Bridget and Monica, for being here tonight.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I wanted to kind of first start off with Tosa Moms Tackling Racism. How did the group form, I guess, last year in 2020?
I can answer that one. Tosa Moms Tackling Racism started, I believe, in June of 2020. That seems so long ago already. As you know, as a kind of a reaction to the George Floyd murder, and it was just amazing at the momentum that occurred from the inception of this group. I mean, it just grew. It was just such a great thing to see the passion and fervor of Tosa moms that want to tackle racism. I mean, what our goal is in our title. That is our lane. That is what we want. That is what we are always striving to do. Tackling racism, improving equity in Tosa and beyond.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it was spawned from another group that was just for Milwaukee moms, and then the idea was put out, what if there was just one just for Tosa? And I was like, yes, let's do this. And I don't really know how I figured out I was a moderator, how I became one, or how I got in contact with the people, but somehow I became a moderator. So here we are. And we've just been, we've grown. We're at like 800 some members, and it's been really good. It's been a huge learning curve for us as we've figured out, okay, what actually is our lane? What are the guidelines for being on our group? And do we step in, or do we let the group kind of figure out this conflict or this discussion that might be happening? Like, what is our role? And so it's been a steep learning curve, and it's been fast. Like, just when we think like, hey, we have a week that we can just take a breath and maybe try to figure out some like long-term plans, all of a sudden we're back in. Unfortunately, it's been it's been quite a ride, but I'm really impressed by all of our members that we've gathered and how passionate they are about seeing change in Tosa.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And I love the concept because moms get it done. A lot of the work that I've kind of been involved in the community has always come back to Tosa moms and how you can really rely on them to do the work. You guys really, really get it done. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are doing a lot of work in the community, but as moms, what does the work that you guys do with your kids look like?
I can answer that first. I know Bridget and I mean, we're so fortunate that we're frequently, us and then the other two moderators, Dory and Megan, we're so easily on the same page, but obviously we come at things from different perspectives. In regard to my own children, and their friends, to be honest, when we do see them in, a COVID safe environment, which is few and far between now. It's kind of looking for those organic, teachable moments that aren't forced. Because I feel like that's the best way kids learn, and things become ingrained, and it just becomes a part of who you are when it's not forced. For example, I have the little free library in my front yard, and we decided to sort of adopt it and make it social justice themed. And I feel like as a self-confessed bookworm, I love to read, and I feel reading with your children is such a great way to just create those teachable moments, and for them to experience and see those examples of being kind and understanding and seeing people coming from different perspectives, coming from different places, looking different, and how that's important. That the books just create those environments without having to have forced conversations.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, having younger kids, it's definitely, picture books are a really good way into those conversations. And I think what's really worked well for me with our 8-year-old is kind of letting her take the reins. So it's not me saying like, hey, dinner time conversation today, we're going to talk about XYZ. Like, it's letting her come to me with questions when she sees things. I mean, we don't sit down and let her watch the news, but she, sees people with their signs, and she saw the protests this summer and into the fall, and she's been there with me, and letting her kind of take the lead on it, because then she takes more ownership. And I can remember, that wasn't something that was commonplace for me when I was growing up. I remember, I didn't have any idea what was going on in the world. It's like, seriously, I lived in this weird little bubble. And I can even remember asking my parents around election time, like, who did you vote for? And they'd be like, well, that's a personal thing. I'm like, okay. So I just assumed like we didn't talk about that. I don't know. And now I take such a different approach with my kids. Like, if they ask, like, I'm not going to tell you, like, you have to vote the way I do, but I'm going to explain this is who I voted for and why. And, it's going to lead to conversations about who did other people vote for, things like that. So, being open with our kids, obviously age appropriate, but allowing those conversations so that they start having them sooner. And it's just kind of a part of who they are, that they question things and they want to know more, and that they learn that there are things in the world that we need to try to fix. And as young people, yeah, you can still do things. So, I think there's approachable ways to bring it up with kids, but the best tactic for me has been, you know, follow their lead. And maybe it's, I'm really fired up about something, but my kid wants to talk about butterflies today. And like, fine, like we won't talk about it today, but you better believe I'm like filing it away in the back of my brain. So the next time it does come up, I can make sure to, you know, address it or bring up examples and things like that. So books,
Yeah.
yes, following kids' questions.
Actually,
Yeah.
go off. Sorry, Sienna. Just to
No,
go
go
off
ahead.
what Bridget was saying, it's just because it's just such a salient example to me, because I'm actually substitute teaching in my 9-year-old's class for this month. It was planned. It's not COVID related. It's, his teacher just is on paternity leave, but I'd say Thursday last week, I want to say, I was teaching social studies, which I'm so glad that I'm teaching that, because I feel like that is something that I can actually speak to in some degree. And we were discussing, you know, like geography, like the Southeast region of the United States. And the insurrection at the Capitol is just so, I mean, it was salient on my mind. And it was something I did want to discuss with the children. But again, it was just that whole organic, age appropriate way that I want, you know, I was like, how do I bring this in? So I tried to do some research on it. And it was just so salient on the children's minds that it just naturally went to it within minutes of, we might have been discussing, we were discussing Georgia. So it actually was a pretty like appropriate way to get there in a very educated way of the children to get there through, you know, the talks of Georgia, the Georgia elections, and you know, and then into the Capitol discussion. And I was quite proud of that discussion. You know, I was moderating, you know, I was letting the kids speak and see how they saw it through their eyes, and tried to, you know, again, this is the age of, you know, maybe in 4th grade, social media isn't as big a deal, but there's still misinformation. And so that was
Right.
kind of what I was trying to do, is, you know, remain unbiased, but yet correct misinformation.
Right, right. And I have such a deep passion for children and how we communicate to them and with them about issues of race and inequality, because it's so important to plant those seeds at home and not just in the classroom and beyond in the classroom. What, you know, like what you were doing, Monica, having those really comprehensive discussions is so, so, so important. And you just kind of made me reflect on, you know, we're approaching Black History Month, where a lot of kids, they're going to get the bulk of their race education and that's it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's really important to have those conversations and be open and honest, because you know, they'll carry that with them as they go. And I'm so happy to see how you guys are promoting, you know, doing that within your own families, but also promoting it with others, with the library, and with the other actions that you guys are taking. It is so, so, so important. So I absolutely love that. I kind of wanted to go back to, Bridget made a point about the bubbles, and I think that's really important, because so many people in 2020 had this shift from being in a bubble to being out of the bubble. And a lot of that, you know, I think had to do with a lot of us being at home and kind of seeing a lot of the things that took place take place, and being in, you know, a time and a place where we could really think about it and really, you know, say, okay, let me look a little deeper into this. You know, how are you guys helping the community expand their bubbles?
You know, that's something that we're really going to focus on actually moving into 2021. Like I said, like 2020 we were just getting started. We, you know, where a lot of what we were doing was, you know, in response to things. And so we didn't get as many like proactive things, but that's something we've really identified as something we care a lot about, that people need to be educating themselves and they need to be expanding their bubble and their understanding of things. And, you know, it's not enough to just say, well, I'm not racist. Like there's more to it than that. Like you need to actually live it. And are you living it? And are you supporting Black owned businesses? Are you calling out racism when you see it? So there's more to it. So I think one of our big goals is kind of educating ourselves. And we're going to be doing a book discussion. So we are working on the book. So you want to talk about race, and we'll be hosting some book discussions with that. And then in the upcoming months, possibly doing another discussion around the documentary 13th. So, you know, allowing people that time to say, okay, I need to, you know, look at myself and reflect, and am I as, you know, anti-racist as I thought I was? And, you know, a lot of the times you might actually be like, oh my goodness, no, like there's little things I've been doing that have not been standing up to the system. And I mean, I'm a moderator here and I'm not perfect. I'm sure that there's things that I still need to grow in and change about myself as well. So I think that's going to be a really big focus, is educating ourselves, because if we can educate ourselves, then we can pass it on to our children, to our neighbors, and kind of see that ripple outward effect. That's one of our big goals. So kind of jumping ahead in our topic list, that is a big focus for 2021.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, and Dory's wants to try to host like white space events where people really talk about like what it is, like white privilege, and like how has it benefited you, and like did you even realize that it was, right? Am I?
Yes. No, that's on our to-do list for 2021.
Yes, that's awesome. And I that brings me to another point. Like I, you know, Wauwatosa is a mostly white community, right? And how for one, I think it is so important that, you know, when it comes to issues of how to be anti-racist, it's important for white people to talk to other white people about those things. And I think that what you guys are doing is really, you know, creating space for that to happen. So it's really, really important. And I really appreciate, you know, what you guys are doing with that. But so let's talk about 2020. I know 2020, we're all tired.
It was such a long year.
It was such a long year. And, you know, for us that are working in the community, a lot of it was reactive, like you were saying, Bridget. There was just one thing after another. Can you guys talk a little bit about why it's important to keep the momentum going into this year? And, you know, how do we acknowledge that fatigue, but still keep going?
I can answer that, because we did just talk about that as moderators, and that is a conversation we've actually been having for the last couple of weeks. Because I mean, 2020 was a long year, and again, it was reactionary, just putting fire after fire after fire, and you know, kind of, you know, we understand that there was, you know, a lot of just, you know, distractions and other things for to focus our attention on in, you know, the month of December, but that we were really, as moderators, trying to use the new year 2021 as like, all right, you know, we're going to try to hit the ground running here, because if the phrase we used many times, and I used it to describe myself as kind of getting lulled into complacency again, like, and we can't do that. You know, like we can't afford to do that. This is the time to make the change, like to make that big picture change. And if we get lulled into complacency, you know, we let our, you know, our group fade into oblivion, you know, we stop doing our actions, then that's what's going to happen. And just history will just continue to repeat itself. And I know that us as moderators do not want that to happen. And so we are trying to just continue to propel that change. I'm sure there will be continue for opportunities for us to continue to be reactionary, that we're going to have to like put out that fire or figure out how we're going to address a post, an event, an action, but continue to also hand in hand with what Bridget said, that our goal is to also be proactive, and education is just such a big piece of what we're hoping to focus on in 2021.
And I think we've talked about this a lot as moderators. Like there's been weeks where I've been like, oh my goodness, you guys, I didn't pay attention to the last 3 days of messages. I'm sorry. And like, it's okay. Like there's so much going on. And even if there wasn't, it's okay to step back every once in a while, but we need to remain committed to this. So if it's simply that you have like an alert on your phone, like once a month, you're going to make sure you do one of the actions, and, you know, kind of start increasing your involvement that way, or keep it going. You know, we've said over and over again, this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. We're trying to undo hundreds of years of systemic racism. We're not going to fix it in 6 months of being a Facebook group in in pandemic times. Like there's so many things that need to happen, but we need to celebrate the victories, the small wins that we get, and celebrate what we can do and what we do get accomplished, and just know like we can't do it all, but we are teamed up with some other great organizations in Tosa, and we have great momentum going forward. And if you need to sit out for a couple of weeks, okay, but we want to see you back. Like we understand like you need to take a break, because this is exhausting. It's all heavy, and everything is heavy, but come back, because there's still so much more to do.
Right.
So, you know, taking care of yourself, but also remembering like we can't, like Monica said, let things just go back to the way they were, to where we didn't pay attention to this as much.
Right. And one thing I love about the moms, that's what we all call you guys, the moms. what I love about the moms is you guys show up and you bring joy to whatever action it is that we're doing. And like you said, this is heavy stuff. A lot of it is heavy. And sometimes it's, you know, easy to kind of forget that it's really heavy and you're just like coasting. And then other times the heaviness just falls like bricks on you. And one of the things that I love that you guys do is you really maintain that joy, because to me, joy is a form of protest in itself. Joy from mothers is, our children learn joy from their mothers. It's an important thing. It's fuel to help you keep going and keep that momentum going. And so it's so important to, you know, always remember to have joy. And, you know, the yellow shirts really bring a very joyful feeling. You guys are awesome at that. And I love that, because it is a fight. You know, we are all fighting for something, and a lot. It's just fight. And it's, you have to have that joy to keep going. So that's awesome. We do have a question from the comments on Facebook. It is from Sarah Griffey. And she says, one question I have is about how you balance paying attention to local, state, national, historic, and internal / self-driven news and reflection. Your Facebook page covers it all. How do you prioritize the input and output of sorts?
We try so hard to stay in our lane. We really, really do, because we know there are so many places where you can share things happening at a national or state level. We've been really trying to hone in on like our lane is Tosa. Like now when like the shooting of Jacob Blake happened, we created a space. We were like, everybody, if you need to put your thoughts out about this or share resources about this or information, of course, we're going to talk about that. But the main focus, we want it to be on Tosa. So if we can find some sort of way to tie it into Tosa, or to, I know I shared something that was from, I think, a group in Shorewood, but it was about social justice story time. So, and it was virtual, so kids from anywhere can go to it. So that was also in our lane of like moms. So bring your kids to this. So if it somehow ties to our lane, we want it. I guess that's the best way. We always come back to what is our lane.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
And that's how you stay organized too.
It is.
You know,
It is.
yeah, you stay organized and you stay focused on the outcomes that you're trying to achieve and not entirely on, you know, the way everybody might be feeling validly at that time. So that's super important. Awesome. Awesome. So can you guys talk a little bit about some of the specific like actions that you guys took in 2020? I know we've seen the chalk, the art, the sidewalk art. Can you talk a little bit more about all the things you guys did?
I can talk to a couple of them. We did, we worked with the Wauwatosa Public Library. I can speak to that. It happened in my front yard. A book picnic that occurred social justice theme. So I contacted Annie from the Wauwatosa Children's Library because they had a couple neighborhood gatherings throughout the summer, and I just felt that, again, as a self-confessed bookworm and as a mom's group, that to have a children's book gathering, and I specifically asked Annie if we could have it just social justice themed. And she came through, like, like we were able to, we had time slots where people were, families were able to sign up to come at a certain time. So it was socially distanced and COVID safe. But the books were at a variety of levels: board books, chapter books, early reader chapter book, social justice oriented, civil rights heroes, biographies, autobiographies, women, people of color. And she came through. She had a little teaching area where she explained how you notice even I have to admit that, like, I didn't notice how biased a certain story could have been or the way a book was written. And I was like, wow, like, that is really interesting. So I felt that was a great teaching Tosa Mom Tackling Racism sponsored event. Wow, I'm just like, I feel like I'm like thinking back on like years ago, but again, it was about 6
we were definitely present when there were protests in Tosa. Anytime there's been some sort of protest, especially the People's Revolution, when they come to Tosa, we make sure that we broadcast that with our event, with our members, and the Stands for Justice on the corner of North and Mayfair. This summer I worked with Angela Harris. She organized a We Chalk the Walk event at Hart Park. So that was, again, for kids to come out and use the sidewalk chalk and cover that park with anti-racist messages. And there were some cool drone videos that she was able to get of what people were able to create. And she gave just an amazing speech to the people who gathered there. Pete's Pops donated free popsicles for the kids. So it was really a kid-friendly event. Monica organized Black Lives Matter sale of signs. So we reached out to, I don't remember who we reached out to get the signs made.
Signs of Hope, I believe was the website.
Thanks. So we had people sign up to get those, and we were able to place a massive order, and we asked people to add a donation onto their order. And then we were able to give that money to LIT, correct?
Yes.
So I'm trying to think what else we've done. Then there's been a lot of writing. So there's been a lot of emails written to the Police and Fire Commission, to the mayor, to our alders. We are helping people come up with scripts and how do you find who you are supposed to contact and how do you get in touch with them. And so there's been a lot of actions that are, hey, this week, why don't you write to Mayor McBride and ask him to do this. And this week, let's write to our alders and ask them about this. So there's been a lot of, behind the scenes, but community input that we've been championing as well. I think that's a lot of it.
Well, and then now it's getting my brain going, thinking about all the things that the coalition.
Yes, the coalition.
The coalition, and please interrupt me if I forget one of the groups, because I feel like it's one of those things that you're like, I'm getting. So Tosa Moms, Tosa Together, Indivisible Tosa, the People's Revolution.
And persisters.
Persisters. So they're all a combination of Tosa groups, or, Milwaukee. I believe Persisters is expanding their horizons beyond, Milwaukee area and Wisconsin. But we're all working together from our own little corners, not even corners of the world, but our own lane, our own perspectives, and we're coming together and kind of pooling our resources, pooling our audiences, pooling our resources. Did I use that word? To kind of just, because we're all ultimately working towards the goal of equality, equity, social justice, anti-racism. And so we just come together and we decide if, actions that we want to work together on. And then we just become that much more powerful when we have all these voices magnified as a united front. Do we have our own separate actions? Yes. We have our own lanes, but when we come together, we are quite the force. So I'm really count ourselves fortunate that the coalition came together and that we all work together towards the common goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I give a thumbs up to that. Absolutely. And I think too, what I have observed is, being side by side with you guys during a lot of the actions from last year, is that you all give opportunities to your group members to participate in a lot of different ways. Bringing snacks to the protesters and waters, gas cards for protesters so they can get to, Kenosha or wherever it is they are. So I think that is really important to point out, and it can be so inspiring for our audience, because there's, if someone is looking for a way to do something, to start, there's a lot that you can do to contribute, to help with the cause. And Tosa Moms extends that to your group members, and you guys do that so well by giving everyone an opportunity to participate. So that is awesome.
Thank you. I completely forgot. Moms always have snacks.
Yeah.
That's the joke, isn't it? Like almost like, so the moms have the snacks, right? It's covered. Got to sign up on it.
Thank goodness Mara was our go-to person that we could donate them all. She took them out there for us. So we ran into an issue like, how do we get hot cocoa out there? We haven't figured that one out yet.
Yeah, we're still working on it.
I'm sure you'll figure it out. I'm sure it'll be solved very soon. We have one comment from the Facebook comments from Angela Quigley. She says, "Thanks for all you do, TMTR." Thank you. Yes, your guys' work is so awesome. So we talked a lot about how you guys started, what kind of inspired you to start, what you got done in 2020. So tell me, let's talk to me a little bit about what your outlook is for 2021. What do we have in the pipeline?
I can start out with that. Like we've kind of mentioned a little bit, education is going to be a really big piece of our focus for 2021. So education for ourselves, I already talked about that. So that'll be one big piece of it. But we obviously as parents, we are involved in our children's education as well. And so working with the teachers and the school board, principals of the district to look at, like you mentioned before, Sienna, it's not, it shouldn't just be that Black history is taught in 1 month, or that we just talk about Dr. Martin Luther King and his I Have a Dream speech right around Martin Luther King Day, and then that's it. But like, how do we really have an anti-racist education here in Wauwatosa, and how do we help the schools get to that point? That's going to be a really big focus as a teacher myself. That's a goal of my own. But it's taking it out of the social studies classroom. So just because it's a social studies issue doesn't mean that it should only be a topic that's covered in our social studies class or in a 20-minute social studies lesson in an elementary school, but that these principals these stories of Americans should be a part of education in all grade levels, all the time, all year long, in all subjects. It's not just, for history class or just one special day of the year that we talk about it, but really pushing to make it, something that happens more consistently, to make it an anti-racist curriculum, which will involve, I'm sure, education for the teachers on, anti-bias training, which I've gone to a couple of professional developments on it, and it's, eye-opening looking at some of the systems that our school systems have in place and how they just single out kids of color and students of color, and it's so infuriating. So then how can we help the district and say, we want you to look at these things and help change them? So applying that public pressure to the schools in the district to continue to look at the curriculum that it has and improve. And then also education for the people who work for our city. Okay, so I think there was some anti-bias training that was offered as optional from what I've been told this fall. I don't think it should be optional. I think, if you're in city government, if you're in government at any level, you should be taking it. I think everybody should probably take it. So our police officers need, more education in that, and our city leaders, our government leaders. So making sure that education piece, that theme of education, it's just, it's so important. So that's going to be a really big piece of what we do in 2021. And it fits really well in that the mom lane.
Yeah. What does Maya Angelou say? When you know better, you do better, right?
Oh. I like that a lot. Something else that, obviously as mothers, I feel like we carry so much of our family, of ourselves, of our children, people around us, people not even around us. We think a lot about others. Mm-hmm. And obviously education, first of all, I'm glad I let Bridget talk about that, because
I get really fired up.
I'm right there with you. You're just way more eloquent about it than I am. But something else, just coming off of 2020 and then going into 2021, something that we often discuss, and that is brought up in our group, but we've also talked about coming up with specific ways to reach out in this pandemic world, and hopefully a post-pandemic world at some point, is self-care. That is something that we try to encourage, but we are looking into ways we could offer, or just opportunities to provide spaces for us to take care of ourselves, because if we can't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of those around us. So I feel like that was something that we've been discussing too, because like Bridget said, like like we said, it's heavy.
Yeah,
it's heavy. It's all heavy. And if we need to take a break to take care of ourselves, do it. Acknowledge it. It's okay. It's important to do it, to come back to it, to be able to come back to it with, the passion that we had before, or even more, like we need to take care of ourselves. And so that is something that we are acknowledging and working towards too in 2021.
Yeah.
We also really want to continue, again, as the mom lane, to continue to come up with ways to involve our kids in things. So we've been kicking around the idea of starting up with like a sort of calendar situation where you could almost have here's an action you can take today. Here's an action you can take today with your kids. So some projects or ideas, conversation starters, books to check out. So we're going to continue to bring in that kid aspect as well, because that is so important for pushing our anti-racism vision into the next generation. So we will be also working on and helping to come up with kid activities.
That's awesome. 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 You got to fill your cup so you can pour into others, right? Exactly. And then gather in the kids, because that's,
Pull the kids
they're the next generation. And, I look at young people today and all of the, like my 13-year-old is so much smarter than I was when I was
No.
13. And they know so much. And so it's so great to kind of like nurture that so that, you know, we can send them out into the world to do really great things. We have a couple of comments from the Facebook comments. Love your book club idea, as well as opening up conversations with the community. Any thoughts of how to engage people who are not typically engaged in these topics? Good question.
That is always the question, isn't
That
it?
is.
There's always people in our circles, in our families that don't always agree with our, you know, our mission, our thoughts on anti-racism and social justice.
We did share some things right around the holidays saying, you know, if you are sitting around, well, hopefully people weren't at like a big crowded Thanksgiving dinner, but if you're sitting around with a relative and they drop some comment, like, how should you respond? So we have started putting that out there. I think it'd be nice to have some resources we could share too. Like, you know, here's an easy article to kind of ease you into thinking the way we do. You know, ways that you can start planting the seeds that aren't attacking other people, but welcoming them in. I mean, I don't have all the answers. If someone has a really great way to do this, then we're going to need to talk to you.
Yes. Look us up, please.
Yeah.
That is something we're continuously working on.
Yeah, as moderators, we don't have all the answers. We're just here to like make sure the Facebook group is still running and
Yeah.
alive and active. So, you know, we'll look to our members too to help us.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing. You know, everything is so divided right now. So
Yep.
it's hard, but at the same time, I really, in my opinion, I think that when you look at racism in and of itself, yes, racism is in systems, yes, it's in politics, but in and of itself, it's not political. It is a matter of your heart and how you view the world, right? And so we all have that human connection and how we view the world. And if you can view it a little bit better than you could before, you know, that's a great way to kind of invite someone into, you know, being open to that. You were mentioning, Bridget, about getting it into schools like all year round. I look at it like we should teach our kids like the same way we should teach our kids about racism the same way we do like human growth and development and PE, because it is a part of life, whether you are experiencing it directly or indirectly. It is a part of our society and a part of our culture, which makes it a part of our everyday life. So that is a great way to tackle it and kind of engage people. Another question we have from Laura Ryan: do you actively try to build your membership, or are people naturally drawn to your group?
That's also something our membership is something we frequently discuss. We do not, I would say we do not actively try to drum up membership. You know, we try to be, I don't want to use the word discerning, but, you know, we don't really, like, we have two, you know, like, what is,
Formats.
member questions. Like when you, when you want to join the group, we have like two, are you a mom in Tosa? And then are you okay, you know, following our rules of being a kind Facebook member, basically. And again, we don't seek people. We're not rejecting people. We just kind of exist. And if people want to be a part of Tosa Moms to tackle racism, then we will welcome you with open arms.
Right.
This is,
sorry, go ahead, finish.
Oh, I was just going to mention I know some people, as much as I would love to not be on social media or on Facebook or on Instagram or on whatever other form of social media I'm on, we understand that other people are stronger than I am about being on social media. So we actually also have an email newsletter that our other moderator, Megan, puts together, because we don't, want that to be a limiting reason. You're not
Yeah.
part of our group just because you don't want to be on Facebook or on social media. I mean, that's ridiculous if that was a criteria. So that is actually something we are trying to kind of put out there more, is if you don't want to be on social media,
Fine.
go you know, like, but here's this other way to stay in contact with us and to be active and take those actions as a Tosa mom for social justice.
And I will say, like, we have had so, you know, we spread by word of mouth, and there was an article in the Journal Sentinel recently that mentioned us, and we got a couple people who wanted to join after that, and neighbors inviting neighbors, friends inviting friends. We've had a couple dads try to join and we rejected them. Sorry. Sorry. We love that you are passionate and want to be a part of it. Tosa Together would be a fantastic group for you to join, dads. But as we've talked about in this, like, the role of moms is unique. And so we've really tried to limit it to moms, grandmas, mother figures, we'll say. So if you are a foster parent to mom or to kids, or an aunt, and you're taking care of kids, you know, we want that motherly side to it. You know, I think what our a big thing of our group was we were hit in the gut with that sign that was held up at a protest that all moms were summoned when he called for his mama. Like, I still get choked up when I think of that. And so I think we've got a really good group of moms, and we'll continue to probably spread. Will we add another 800 members over the next year? I don't know about that, but I hope that the 800 people that we do have are committed and are willing to at least put in, you know, an action here or there, however they can. Because I mean, if everybody did one action a month, that's 800 actions against racism being done. So yeah, we're not actively looking for new members. Please do join us if you are a mother figure in Tosa. We would love to have you. And I think there's a lot that our members will be able to accomplish.
Yeah. And the dads, look, dads could start their own group. You guys have the blueprint. You've
have not
given them
taken the initiative to go start their own group.
That's funny.
Awesome. So we have
Dad.
a few more questions left in the comments here. Let's see, from Angela Quigley. Have there been other Moms Against Racism type groups that you were inspired by when creating it? I think you mentioned that at the top with the Milwaukee group, right?
There was a Milwaukee group. I know there was also a group in Portland. I remember seeing there was like the Wall of Moms, who were just like amazing, who were standing, I think it was like a wall of white moms standing in between police and Black protesters, if I'm remembering that event right. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So they were inspirational for us, but really there was a Milwaukee Moms anti-racism group briefly. I can't
remember the exact title either. But that was kind of
our starting point
that was planted, that we kind of stemmed off of.
Yeah,
the Tosa one.
I can't remember.
That's awesome.
What it was called.
The next question is from Katie Radford. She says, love TMTR. How does your group moderate differences of strategy and opinion amongst members? Does Facebook allow us to work together effectively? That's a good question. Community organizing can be tough, right?
That is what I'm learning every day. And I think I touched on it briefly earlier, that I consider myself so fortunate that Bridget, Dory, and Megan and I, you would not imagine, we were just saying that, like, I can't even imagine how many messages are between the four of us since June. 10,000 maybe. Right. I don't know. It's a lot. We are lucky that we all work well together, that we're respectful of one another, that we, try to foster, nurture this group that's so important to all of us, to not just us, the moderators, but, as a group of Tosa moms, that is, again, where we always kind of fall back on, we kind of do a gut check. We do, our lane. I mean, if I could count how many times we have like, is this in our lane? We need to stay in our lane. That is when we see a post, when we see a comment, throughout our group. That is like our guidepost. And that has really steered us in the direction I think it always keeps us true to who we are. And it is, I count myself fortunate that I can rely on these women as moderators, co-moderators, because we really lift each other up and support each other as a community within us as moderators and as a group. And I feel that the sense of support we have as moderators, I would hope, kind of seeps out into our group.
Yeah,
I think-
yeah.
Um,
Go ahead, Bridget.
We've had obviously some intense conversations on our group, and there are people who are at different points in their kind of growth. I just shared a thing actually yesterday, about these kind of circles of your growth and understanding where you are and being truly anti-racist. And there's some people who are just, starting out, and then there's other people who have been doing this work for, 10, 20 years, their entire lifetime. And so, yeah, there's been times where it's gotten tense, and, we're on social media, we're typing, and so you never exactly know the tone. And so, it's been taken in the wrong way, or somebody felt like they were being attacked. And so immediately, like, 4 moderators are like, do we need to step in? What do we need to do? Let's just moderate for a little bit. Let's just watch. Let's see what the hive does. And we just kind of like see, okay, like, oh, wait, I think we do need to step in. And then we're always sending Dory, because she's really good with words.
That is
Dory.
also our fail-safe.
Go do something. Dory. Go write something. And we try to kind of help, because this is a complicated topic, and there's people coming from all different walks of life, but we're all here with the same goal of creating an anti-racist society. And it doesn't help for us to fight within ourselves, but to keep that common goal in mind and to build each other up and help each other grow and learn. And I think, like, we've gotten to a pretty good point. Like, the group does a good job of almost like moderating itself sometimes and saying, like, I don't think that's what she meant. And we're like, oh, we don't have to do anything. All right, it's already taken care of itself. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So, that conflict mitigation that moms are good at, every once in a while we do need to step in, but by and large, the group is here for the common purpose, and it's for moving forward here in Tosa.
Yeah. And I have to say, I absolutely adore Dory. I can't wait till COVID is over so I can have dinner at her house. And she gets the comments all the way together.
Yeah, she does.
So, and you need that. You need that sometimes. There's another question, and this kind of answers a good segue. Do you have a grandma component?
Yes.
Yes.
Come on in. We love grandmas. Dory is a grandmother, and
Dory's
she's
a grandma.
a part of it. So yes.
Yes.
Grandmas.
Another question is, or actually this is a comment from Charles Harris. And this goes back to kind of the education piece. He says, the curricular aspect is addressed by including these topics across subjects and linked together. It begins with teaching staff forging relationships with their students based on empathy and authenticity.
Yes.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
That's awesome. Another comment from Angela Quigley. She says, we appreciate you guys being on social media to get the message out. It's definitely a platform to mobilize people. So keep up that good work. So speaking of, how else, in the last few minutes that we have here, how else can the community get in touch with Tosa Moms Tackling Racism?
We do have an email, tosamomstacklingracism@gmail.com. So we will get that to Tosa together so they can post that. And that's where we send out the newsletter from. So we do have that. We are kicking around the idea of going to Instagram, because I know some people really want to get off Facebook, but they still like Insta. So we're kicking around, like, could we just post some quick action items on Instagram, and maybe hit a few more people that way? We'll keep you posted on how to follow us on there. So for right now, those are our 2 main ways, Facebook and that email, but stay tuned.
Awesome. Any other closing words before we before we wrap up tonight?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I think it's great that we can be here to talk about this and help people in Tosa learn how to be an ally. And, you know, again, we don't have all the answers, but we're a group that's really trying to make some change here in Tosa. And I'm so proud to be a member of it because they are, it's a fantastic group. So we, you know, we've done a lot of good, and I think we can continue to do a lot of good moving forward.
Awesome. Any immediate actions you guys have coming up, like very soon?
Saturday, correct, Monica?
Yes.
There's the boycott lit drop, correct? So that's meeting at Hart Park at noon, I think.
Sienna?
That's right. Yes. I can confirm. Yes, the Hart Park at noon.
So we are helping sponsor that event, which is taking things to different businesses, if I'm not mistaken, in Tosa. And then we always post our Do Work Wednesday. So I'm sure tonight we will be reconvening to think about that. I think we're going to continue to, you know, before Christmas and the New Year and things like that, we were talking about emailing McBride to just push him to be a little bit more of a leader and make some decisions instead of just sitting and listening to everybody. Like, make a plan for Tosa moving forward. So I think that's another action we hope to revisit with putting a little bit more pressure on him. So watch for our Do Work Wednesday tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Tomorrow's
Days all blend together.
All ready together.
I don't know. I'm lucky I
Awesome.
made it here.
Awesome. Well, please join me, audience, in thanking our guests. Thank you, Monica and Bridget. We really appreciate you sharing your experience, insight, and goals for Tosa Moms Tackling Racism with us tonight. Thanks also to you, our Facebook audience, for your time, as well as your comments and engaging questions. We hope you found this presentation enlightening and inspiring. And a special thank you to our generous friends at Bostic, whose support makes the entire Tosa Talks series possible. Plan on joining Tosa Talks again this month. Our representatives from Legal Aid Wisconsin will be with us on Wednesday, January 20th, and we'll have a great discussion with County Executive David Crowley on Thursday, January 28th. You're welcome to reach out to Tosa Together anytime through our Facebook page, our website, or by emailing us directly at tosatogether@gmail.com. This is Sienna Lytle with Tosa Together, and it's been my absolute pleasure to be here with tonight's panel, as well as all of you. Thanks for being a part of Tosa Talks and our mutual effort to build a diverse, thriving community. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sienna.
Thank you.